Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Rafasi, and I'm the Health Promotion Manager here at 8 Wing CFB Trenton. Really pleased to deliver the content today called Managing Stress. What a great topic, a topic for any time of the year, but certainly as we approach the holiday season, a very timely topic because stress is certainly something that we're no stranger to in the hustle bustle of this time of year. So a couple things as we get through the slide deck today. I wanted to launch with just a bit of an outline and some of the things that we're going to cover. We're going to obviously define stress, and there's not one real definition that we're stuck on. We're going to unpack stress, take a look at how it happens. We're going to look at what can be done when we have to manage our stress and looking to some positive strategies, so tools and plans for moving forward. So interactive workshop in the sense that I hope that as you're listening and watching this content, that there's an opportunity for you to reflect on things that you may already know, things that you're currently doing, and things that you would like to try to do. So interactive with yourself, with the slides, with the education, with the delivery mode that we're going to go through in the next half hour or so. So it's going to be an effective skill-based approach to managing stress. We're going to take a look at our self-awareness. We're going to look at our behavior change and anything about our habits that we might have to re-examine. We're going to take a look at some skill building, some examination of the stress that we currently have in our life. And we're going to take a look at some stress management techniques and the strategies that we could hopefully practice moving forward, should that be something of interest to you. So lots of definitions of stress. The one there in quotations truly is a quote that we hear probably every time we deliver this content. So that pressure that exceeds your ability to cope, that just feels like pressure. But there's also that definition of an imbalance. The demands of the situation and your personal coping resources are not in sync. So we definitely want to recognize that it's different for everybody. We also should recognize that there's good stress and there's bad stress. And for the most part today, we're going to talk about the distress and how that can negatively impact us. So we're going to come up with positive solutions to negate that. So this slide talks about the three-stage process of how stress happens. So we basically have an event that takes place, and that event can be anything from a bad experience through the Tim Hortons drive-through. It can be external or it can be internal. The second stage of the three-stage process is where we interpret or we judge what's just happened. And then the last part of this three-stage process of how stress happens is whether or not we're able to live in the green and manage it, or we go to the red and we are unable to manage the stress. So really important that we recognize that there's many types of stressors, external and internal. There's also an opportunity for us to interpret and judge what's just happened. And that, for the most part, is based on previous experience, what we have encountered before, what this means to us, how we judge it as good, bad, or otherwise, and then really putting some emphasis on the green arrow, trying to come up with solutions to manage the stress so we don't go into the red. This, of course, is all linked to the mental health continuum model, hence the color selection of green for managing stress, yellow in the middle, somewhere between managing and unable to manage. So this slide reminds us that the interpretation, or the second part of the three-stage process, is based on all of those things you see listed. So our past experiences, the present day circumstance that you're in. Is this that's just happened a danger, a threat? Does it make you feel like you're out of control? Are you judging it to be a problem? Are you judging it and coming to conclusions about other people's motives? That interpretation piece is really important because it's also the one part of how stress happens that we can have some control over. We technically don't get a lot of say in preventing some stresses from happening, like that phone call, maybe from your child's school, somebody's fallen in the playground, maybe there's been an injury, maybe you've just had a call from a family member about something that's happened, maybe it's relative to the pandemic. Whatever that stressor is, the unfortunate part is we don't have a ton of control over those stressors, but the good news is we do have control over our interpretation of what's just happened. This slide reminds us that there's a fight, flight, freeze reaction that really takes a mental situation into a physical situation. So you'll see that this list involves an increased heart rate, an irregular heartbeat, increased breathing rate, tense muscles, dry mouth, sweating, and knot in the stomach. That fight, flight, freeze reaction to stress is very profound, and it now lives in a very physical response. So it's important to note that when we examine this three-stage process and how important it is that we recognize where we have control so we can get to the green. We've already touched on the types of stressors, but an external stressor could be anything physical, your environment, social or interactive. It could be institutional. It could be a major life event. It could be a daily hassle. And then, of course, the internal stressors, those are our lifestyle choices. Maybe the way we talk to ourselves. Maybe we are only using negative talk. The mind traps that you think that you have a certain way of thinking and that you're stuck with that thought process and you can't differentiate between that and another way of maybe considering or interpreting a situation. And then certainly our personality types do play a role in the internal stress piece. So certain personality types, for example, somebody who might be a perfectionist or somebody who has a high attention to detail, those sorts of personality types tend to put a ton of internal stress on themselves and thus creating, in this case, an internal stress, vice an external one. So some of the life choice stressors that we see listed on this slide, you're going to see all those habits that we tend to use or do daily. So drinking coffee, our sleep habits, our nutrition habits, tobacco, drugs, alcohol, and in this case, insufficient sleep, our poor work-life balance, our long work hours, shift work, commuting, travel, financial problems, all of the things listed on that slide. Those lifestyle choice stressors are important because, again, when a stress happens, there's a lot of things we don't have control over. However, these things, in some cases, we do have control over. We have control over how much caffeine we're consuming. We have control to some extent over how much sleep we're getting. We have control over what we're eating. Our substance use, we do have control over that. Work-life balance, making a commitment to that being a priority. In some cases, obviously, shift work might not be something we can control, but we certainly can control how we approach the shift work situation that we're in. And the list, of course, is endless. When you look at the life choice stressors that we have, it's really now about recognizing what things we might be able to change, modify, improve upon as it relates to how it impacts our stress. So why do we manage stress? Really, as we know, this wellness project is all about our wellness. That is the underlying and overarching reason right there, is for the health of it, for the wellness of it. Managing our stress is going to be able to equip us better to handle life's demands. The benefits will be happier, healthier, we can be more productive. And there's just an endless amount of research to suggest how important it is to manage stress for the benefit of our health. And we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the stress management practice. And now, as a motivator, when we see all these great benefits to managing stress, that can also play into the whole behavior change model of if you're ready to make a change with regards to the stress the stress you carry, the stress you keep, and the stress that you manage. So you'll see this slide, and again, this is populated through our Canadian statistics. 6 leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, lung ailments, accidents, cirrhosis of the liver, and suicide. So stress is linked to death. And again, when we examine as a motivator, why would we manage it? When we link it back to the importance it plays with our overall wellness, you can see, as the slide indicates, it's time for us to take note. It's very important that although we recognize how profoundly stress can impact our lives, it's also really important to recognize that it's not all bad news. We want to look for positive stress strategies to manage our stress, because it is imminent. Stress is going to happen. If you take a look at what we're all dealing with now with regards to the pandemic, it's been imminent that the stress is there. So that was not something that we could control. And we need to maybe brace for the fact that that stress piece is with us in various different forms. So it's really important to acknowledge, unfortunately, how uncontrollable that is, but now recognize the positive, and looking for some strategies to manage stress. So you'll see that we've seen lots of success in the industry from people choosing to create a stress management lifestyle, to explore what affects their stress, and to take charge by taking action. So again, you get a phone call from the school, there's been a slip and fall in the playground, maybe there's a broken arm or a broken nose or a slight concussion that you're dealing with. When we look at how stress happens, the event has taken place, let's interpret, judge this, let's stay calm, let's get to the school, let's get the child to a medical practitioner, and now let's make this the best experience for this person, and to provide a positive spin on it, because now how we interpret it and judge it is going to mean, is this stress going to keep giving us negative energy, or are we going to work to the green and have a reaction that's more positive? You can probably at this moment think of stressors that have happened, things that have taken place over your years, and how you reacted. And yes, it's based on your previous experience, your coping mechanisms, how familiar you are with what has just happened, but recognizing that there may have been times where you did go to the red, where you weren't able to totally manage it. So there is that interactive opportunity now to reflect on things that you've been through, as a way of looking to model maybe a new behavior, a new stress management lifestyle that'll benefit you down the road, with all this information that may have been a bit of a review, but it's an opportunity to re-energize you about a really important topic. So what gets in the way of us being able to manage our time? We rely on many governing bodies within national defense. And of course, we look to Health Canada as one of our biggest governing bodies for statistics and industry research. And what gets in the way of us being able to manage our time? You can probably think of lots of things, distractions, the lack of work-life balance, maybe deadlines, maybe holidays, maybe a pandemic, maybe priorities that are being shuffled all over the place. There are lots of reasons why there's a barrier to time management. And sometimes when we analyze people who have had success with managing their stress, they're also able to manage their time. So recognizing that as an important tool. So when we look at time management, we are reminded that it's an internal skill and we get to have control over it. Activities, when you do time management, you're taking a look at activities that reflect what's important to you. So let's take, for example, in the industry of physical fitness. The fitness industry tells us that the highest percentage of people who stay active and stay physically fit and adherent to their workout regimes are ones that schedule it in, that time manage it in. And that industry statistic has been around for a long time, with a high percentage of success for those people who stay active and stay fit and ultimately for their health. And it's also an opportunity for us to take a look at how we spend our time. So sometimes when we're trying to create a new path ahead for maybe a stress management lifestyle, we ask people to take a look at where they are spending their time and truly take 24 hours a day. And how much of it am I sleeping? How much of my, thankfully our phones, our cell phones tell us, our screen time, whether it's up or down or otherwise, but a real opportunity to actually analyze where you are using up most of your time. So for some people, that's very easy. Their commute is this long, their work day is this long, they get to the gym for an hour. For others, it's very hard to realize how much time they've wasted. And by wasted, I mean, once they analyze it and they realize that they're missing opportunity with the balance in their workday. And we do see that. The first time you take a day off and all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I had the whole day off. How did that happen? I hardly achieved anything. So recognizing the importance of taking a look at how you spend your time. So when we look at time management, we also look at why we say yes. We say yes, somebody calls you up and says, let's meet for coffee, or do you have time for a 1-hour Zoom, or do you have a time for a phone call? And we are so inclined to say yes, even at the risk of our own time management. So what's just happened, I've said yes, I'm going to meet with you, sit with you for an hour, but now that means I'm not going to get A, B, and C done. So we recognize now that saying yes actually in some cases can be a negative impact or a barrier for the success of your managing time as it relates to your stress management lifestyle. So this slide reminds us that we view saying no as a conflict or a confrontation. And we often have a lack of confidence in saying no. We want to please others. We want to be a problem solver. Saying no for so many years has just been something we don't say. And so this slide reminds us that there's so many ways to say no. And it doesn't have to be the conflict confrontation. It doesn't have to be that you've not pleased that other person. Saying no rather than always saying yes, 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 I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, now means you're going to get some of your time back. So recognizing that the boundaries are in fact a stress management tool because they help you maintain your balance of your day. And that's not to say you're saying a permanent no. Somebody calls you and says, hey, do you have 2 hours on Sunday where we can book a phone call or a FaceTime? And you say, no, I can't do 2 hours on Sunday, but I could do 20 minutes. Or no, I can't do this Sunday, but I could do 3 weeks from now. So examples how you're not really saying no, but you are being able to maintain the control over what your work-life balance is all about. So learning how to manage our boundaries, often when people will ask for our time because they don't have enough of their own, saying yes when you want to say no, that absolutely equals stress. So the minute you said yes to somebody who asked you to have a 2-hour FaceTime, often people are like, oh, I can't believe I said yes. I don't have enough time for this. I needed to do all of these things. And now there's the stress cycle. So the messaging here is take care of your commitments first, look after yourself first, and don't be afraid to push it off to the future. And then in essence, you're taking a no and turning it into a partial yes, but you still have the control. This slide talks a lot about, we call this our performance grid or our time grid. It has 4 quadrants. It has urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And we use this in a lot of our courses, and we allow people to reflect on where they're spending their time. So a lot of people realize, oh man, I'm in the not important, not urgent quadrant. I'm doing a lot of surfing the net, shuffling papers, forwarding on silly emails that I get, maybe playing games. And that message is that now you're losing the balance in your time grid. So we want people to place their emphasis, obviously, in the top two, the important, but recognizing that if you can get the not urgent up there in the priority, that's a good thing. Your relationships are really important, but they might not be urgent. Your long-term goals, your self-care, your workouts, those might not be urgent, but they're definitely important. So we want people to place some emphasis in the not urgent, important quadrant. Because unfortunately, what ends up happening on a crazy day, when you get a call from the daycare and your child has to be picked up because maybe there's been an exposure to COVID, or somebody is sick, or somebody's come down with a fever, now everything else gets displaced. So there's an opportunity to be proactive, and we want people to start recognizing the benefit to your stress when you live in a proactive world. You be prepared. So for example, today we had a meeting as a health promotion team, and the theme was being prepared, being ready for anything, being ready for the holiday season, being ready for January 2022, being ready for upcoming events. That is very much in line with what this balanced time grid is all about. Let's pay some attention to the proactive piece and look after the things that aren't urgent. So when the urgent things come along, these really important things don't get displaced. So what is work-life balance? This is an opportunity to effectively manage the roles and goals in your personal and professional life. It gives you the opportunity to be happy everywhere, and it is often an extension of your time management skills. Now, I want to draw your attention to that concept of roles and goals. This is a huge concept that we talk about in many of our social wellness courses, that when we recognize that we have so many roles and goals associated with those roles, now we can see why there's so many barriers to effective time management and to effective stress management. So take, for example, you take out a piece of paper and you write down all of your roles. So you might be a mother, a sister, you might be a partner, a colleague, a coworker, an aunt, a coach. You're on a council at school. You might be a member of a team. Think of all the roles that you have in your life and the goals associated with it. So now when we look at what work-life balance is, you start to be able to recognize the importance of managing who you are, what you are, how much time you spend everywhere, and are you even linking the roles you have to the goals you're trying to achieve, to that whole work-life balance piece, and then ultimately to the management of your stress. So in some cases, people will reflect and say, oh my gosh, I have 14 roles, like really important roles. I think 2022 might be an opportunity to take a look at some of those roles. Maybe I should only be on one committee and not three. Or maybe I should allow someone else to try coaching for a season. So here's an opportunity to get the control back if time is an issue when you're looking at your lifestyle and the stress management piece. So the next slide talks about setting up your mind. And here we go back to those lifestyle choices, those habits that we have. We know that caffeine can be a great thing, as I'm holding on to my, hot Tim Hortons coffee. Coffee has a personal sensitivity limit and it's individual. So I might be able to have one coffee a day and it doesn't have any impact to my stress level. But I might have someone that I work with that takes 4 or 5 coffees a day, and it absolutely triggers their fight-flight response. It absolutely puts them in a stress response because all that caffeine is going to do that. It's going to increase heart rates. Your body's going to sense, oh, something's up. And now there is a choice that we've made that directly impacts our stress. Sleep, however, should be a really positive thing when we look at our stress management. And this slide reminds us that sometimes when we're not getting enough sleep, that in fact can impact your mood and your mind. So recognizing that these choices we make have a big impact. We were talking about university the other day, and we were talking about how so many of us were told to take a triangle, and on each corner of the triangle, write the following words. The top triangle, write sleep. The other part of the triangle, write good note-taking. And the third part of the triangle, write social life. And you're allowed to pick two. And if it's really important to you that you do well in school and you have good notes, and it's really important to you to have a social life, well, now you don't get to sleep. So here is an example of how often we let sleep go. We don't put the emphasis on it, and now we recognize how that impacts our mood and our stress level. The third one is about a substance use for the management of stress. And we do often see people using alcohol for the coping method of it. We would prefer it's for the socialization of it all and to relax and have a good time. But we want to recognize that too much is still too much, and in this case becomes a negative coping method. And there's a lot of buzzwords right now in the world of nutrition, one of which is nutritional psychiatry. So recognizing the role food plays for our brain, recognizing the overall health and physical performance, the increased risk of the increased energy, and the reduced risk of disease as it relates to the choices we make for food. So 4 really neat things that we have control over that could impact stress either negatively or positively: caffeine, sleep, alcohol, nutrition. So more good news. When we look to managing our stress, we get into the relaxation response and we get to the green, not the red. And this is a physical state of deep rest that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress. We see a decrease in heart rate. We see blood pressure come down, our rate of breathing slow down, and our muscle tension just immediately dissipates. Really important, we recognize when we need to elicit this relaxation response. So, think of a high stress time. Maybe you're going into an interview, or maybe you're having a difficult conversation with some team colleagues. This would be an opportunity for you to really engage the relaxation response. Talk to yourself, use a script, use a couple of the tools that you'll see on the coming slides, but really get in to the response that sees the opposite of the stress response, so that now you're able to approach the situation the best way you can. So this slide reminds us of 6 different options. And in fact, you'll see some buzzwords there that the CAF and National Defense have been using for a very long time. So the grounding techniques, that is something that is one of our major mental health exercises that we are proponents of in so many of our social wellness courses. Grounding, we do what's called a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where we ask people, like, let's say they're in a high stress moment. Maybe they are in the middle of a meeting that has brought up a very difficult topic. And this is an opportunity for you to look at 5 things. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you engage all the sentences. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, taste, smell. So what ends up happening is the grounding, or the relaxation technique in this case, becomes a Control-Alt-Delete for our brain. The minute we distract our brain from whatever is consuming us in this stressful environment, now we get the control back. We get to think about what we want to think about. 5 things we can see, 4 things we can hear, and now no longer are we consumed by the negative energy of a situation. Visualization, really important. We see lots of high performance athletes have great success with visualization, and we see our elite forces have great success with visualization. So just practicing over a positive response to a situation, and it ends up being just that, practice. Meditation in the CAF, we call that abdominal breathing or tactical breathing, but really it's just meditation in the defense community. We see great success with that relaxation tool as well. Having an opportunity daily to meditate on purpose, to either work through thoughts, breath patterns, relaxation tools. That is also one of the many mental health exercises that National Defense has been a proponent of for many years. Prayer, another opportunity for relaxation. The deep breathing, very similar in some cases to the meditation, but we see so many different emphasis that can be placed on that purposeful time. And then the last one, bottom right, positive self-talk. So really changing the dialogue. So rather than in the morning, I feel awful. I'm so exhausted. I can't believe how dark out it is, or it's so cold, or it's winter's really here. Those things that you say that are negative, trying to flip that and making that positive. So this slide reminds us that it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment. It could be just 1 minute that you give yourself for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the grounding technique, trying to come up with something to laugh about. I know that, and I'm aging myself, but we used to watch little clips from the Carol Burnett show from way back. I'm not even sure when that was on, but as a team, we would take sort of a 5-minute break and we would just rotate in various different funny, clean, good fun kind of laughter illustrations or mini clips and videos. And what a therapy opportunity, because by the end of it, you would feel so much better. And that laughter, you can elicit that many ways. You could easily just sit and reflect about a time that just made you happy or something that happened that was quite funny. You'll see the 1 minute abdominal or tactical breathing. We have a Padre on our wing that talks about now that once he mastered his practice of tactical breathing, that he actually felt the relaxation response after just 3 breaths. So 3 breaths is well under a minute. And great news, because immediately you feel the effects, the positive effects of that relaxation response. And then there's the acronym of HALT. Maybe you need to just do a check-in. Maybe you need to just say, oh my gosh, what am I feeling right now? Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Maybe you just need to take inventory on what you're feeling. So what can be done? We need to focus on the acceptance piece that stress is imminent. It's going to live all around us. And in some cases, based on our internal stressors and our personality types, it might even live within us. So we need to identify the barriers and the things that are causing us stress. We need to create an action plan, what that's going to look like. Am I going to say no more often? I'm going to say yes less often. Am I going to take control of when I say yes? My action plan, am I going to change any of my lifestyle habits? Am I going to take a look at my work-life balance? Am I going to use my time more effectively? All of those things are part of that action plan. How will I create balance in my life? Will I take a look at all my roles and the goals that I have that link to those roles? Will I change my perspective? When I get up in the morning and I see how dark and cold out is, will I reframe that for something positive? And will I start to use some mental fitness exercises for the health of how that relates to the stress management piece? So in our full day course that we call Stress Take Charge, we use this acronym of accept, create, and take charge. So accept what is, accept what's happening. That's the first step. Stress is going to happen. Create a vision of what you want. Stress has happened. Let's interpret it. Let's judge it. Now figure out how are we going to deal with it. And then the last step, the T, take charge and make it happen. If my workday is 10 hours long and it really should only be 8 hours long, what is that going to look like? Am I getting my workouts 1 day a week and I want to get them 5 days a week? What's that going to look like? How can I take charge and make that happen? There's going to be days where I don't get my workout, but what if I come up with a vision and I try to make it happen? What will that look like relative to this exercise of taking inventory and using this acronym? This slide is just a nice reminder that it's not actually the change event that causes us stress. It's the way we view it. and how we respond that causes the stress. So let's say I get cut off on the highway and I decide to get really angry at that driver and I ruminate about that driver and I say not so very nice things about that driver. And then at the end of it, they pull off, the driver's gone, and now I'm left with feeling, wow, stressed. So the reality is the driver, the event that caused me the stress isn't really so much of the big picture here as it is to how I respond. And if we elicit that whole positive self-talk, if you think for a second to yourself, what could you say about that driver and their driving habits that would not be negative and maybe would be positive, to reframe or change perspective as it relates to your management of stress? What could you say? And we hear often people go, oh yeah, maybe they cut me off because they didn't do their shoulder check and they're in a rush, or maybe they're a new driver. Maybe, maybe they're in a really serious rush for some reason. Maybe there's something urgent happening. Maybe I should just slow down a bit and take it all in. Let's not put too much emphasis on getting angry at them. Let's try to explain in a positive way why that may have happened. So last couple slides, just a review. Stress can be positive or negative. I've given a lot of examples of negative stresses, but let's think about a major life event. Maybe you're about to have a child, or you're about to get married, or there's a new puppy coming into the house, or holiday season, or you just got promoted. So some of these stresses are positive, but that doesn't mean they may not still have an impact on us to accept, create, take charge, or to interpret, judge, and move to the managing of stress. So the really good news is the more we develop our stress skills, the better we can handle anything, work or life. The better stress management, obviously, as the slide says, we're going to be happier, healthier, more productive. And I suppose one of the take-home messages is how stress happens. An event takes place, mental filter, really important. Our response, really important. Let's not ruminate about the stress because we can't control it in most cases. Let's put our energy towards how we interpret it and what our next step is. And the really interesting thing is the relaxation response is truly the opposite of the stress response. If we go with the relaxation response, in essence, we can negate the impact of that not so positive stress response. So what we encourage you to do over the next 30 days is to take a look at maybe trying to practice a daily meditation or a daily abdominal breath or a muscle scan relaxation, some daily meditation that can absolutely help your emotional well-being. You get to reflect on your current stress level. You'll purposely take a break from your stressors. It should help you feel rejuvenated. And the scripts are going to be provided to you, but also you should know there's many of them available online, and they'll be provided as suggestions for participants to include in your daily regime. So what a great opportunity. You could even set yourself up with 30 days of meditations. You could set yourself up with a journal, and sort of title each day as a different type of meditation. There are so many resources available in this practice. We're in good company that this is something that we are using as a positive tool, because although this used to be what we call non-mainstream, sort of alternative practice, it's absolutely a mainstream practice now. And if you were, say, at a function, a social gathering, and you were to poll how many people meditate, you'd be pleasantly surprised that lots of people are using this fantastic tool to help manage their stress and to manage their emotional well-being. So at this time, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to deliver a really important topic of stress as it relates to our overall wellness. And on behalf of the 8-Wing Trenton Health Promotion Team, I wish you a happy holiday season and a great 2022 to better things to come ahead. And for the health of it, the next 30 days, if you're encouraged and interested and motivated to meditate for the purpose of your emotional well-being, we will be sharing with you many resources to help you, to support you in that adventure. So if there aren't any questions, I will just say thank you, and we'll see you in the new year.